Hello, adventurers, and welcome to our continuation of the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything discussion, where we deep dive into Tasha's Cauldron, see what sort of goodies we can find inside. Where last we left last week, a lot of lasts in that one, that's okay. We were talking about the Paladin.
I believe we were about to talk about the Paladin.
Okay.
We had ended on talking about the monk, and then we were going to go on to the Paladin.
Alrighty, so let's dive right into it.
So, I'm looking at the digital version, so that's the easiest
Right.
one to look at. They of course get new spells.
Yep.
There's only a few that were cleric spells and some new ones to the book.
Yeah.
There's only
Summon
5
Celestial.
spells total. Yep, Summon Celestial and Spirit Shroud, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That one's one where you summon spirits or angels around you, and you'll deal extra damage while they're going around. Anything with a melee attack or a range of 10, within 10 feet of you will take extra damage.
Nice. So works well for those reach weapon using paladins. Which reminds me, if you had a bunch of mobs, have 2 people in the front with shields, have them take the dodge action for theirs, have the 2 people just behind them with spears or pikes, so they got a 10-foot reach. It's a killer combo because the front guys have a hard AC, they get disadvantage to hit. The guys in the back, they're just stabbing away.
Sounds like that also sounds like a very historical, like a Roman Greek tactic.
It works.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have bunches of low-level NPCs that you want to be a little bit more effective, that's a great way to do it. But we're getting a little off topic.
Really annoy them with some kobolds that way.
Ooh, kobolds actually would be really good for that.
Yeah.
Also, if you're in very tight corners, I did this once with kobolds. I had them so that they were very impatient. So they literally grabbed the kobold that was fighting the guy, pulled him back. It provokes an opportunity attack, but they only get 1 per turn. So even if you have 7 kobolds that's in a 5-foot gap, they just play hot potato cycling out. They all get to attack, but the enemy only gets 1 opportunity attack. Now, if they're smart, they'll grapple him so they can't get out of the area. But then the kobolds can use their action to use the shove action to pull one of their buddies behind them so the next guy can jump in. There's loads of wacky stuff we can talk about that have nothing to do with the Paladin. It looks like Paladins get 3 new fighting styles, which is very fun.
The one special to them is they can now take Blessed Warrior for theirs, and they gain 2 cantrips from the cleric spell list.
Ooh.
So that's
pretty
Oh, interesting.
Nice.
So your
then-
fighting style is just you have more spells.
Yeah. In fact, one of the in my Young Adventurers, one of the players, they took I let them trade out their fighting style because they were at that level. They leveled up, and they were a ranger, and they took we'll get to that same thing as this one, where they could take the druidic cantrips in lieu of fighting style, and they did
I
that.
can see that being very useful for a ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
I like it.
Ranger's pretty sweet in this book.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got blind fight again, and then we got the interception. Now, is the interception the one where you get to take the damage for someone?
Actually, you get to reduce the damage if you're wielding a melee weapon or a shield. So you get to roll 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus and reduce it as your reaction.
That's
somebody
awesome.
That's super. You become everybody's best friend.
Yeah.
You want to next that wizard.
Now, here's my question for y'all. So there's already the one that allows you to impose disadvantage on an attack to an incoming... impose disadvantage on an incoming attack to a creature within 5 feet of you, as long as you have a shield.
Yeah.
I heard it called the mom arm in one of the streams that I listened to, which I loved. She's like, I'm just going to mom arm him real quick, which is hilarious to me. So disadvantage is the one. This one just reduces their damage.
Yeah.
You're playing a fighter or a character that can take this. Which of those 2 do you guys take?
I think interception sounds more fun to me.
I
The
think
disadvantage, like you actually get to roll a dice and do something. That's always more fun when you get to roll dice rather than the DM rolling disadvantage. Although, I mean, the DM could roll that you roll the other dice and you're trying to roll low to reduce the number.
That would be actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a more fun way of playing it.
I think, personally for me, whenever you can let the players roll the dice, you should. Because that's one of the things with wizards or any spellcaster that gets kind of annoying is when you want to cast those spells that are spell saves, but spell saves you don't get to, you just I do it, and then you hope that they don't make a roll. So I mean it's not a pet peeve. It's always one of those
Yeah.
is that
Yeah. I'll have to agree with you. I do enjoy the interception feat, just for the sheer fact that you either need a shield
Fighting
or
style, not feat.
I mean, yeah, the fighting style interception versus protection, because protection is you have to have a shield, you have to mom arm them. Versus interception, where you could use a shield or you could
a martial
use
weapon.
sword.
Now it is a martial weapon, not a simple. So
yeah, and really quickly.
Well, it does say or a martial weapon to use as reaction.
Yeah. Oh wait, sorry, I'm sorry. Simple or martial. I'm full of bees. Never mind.
Now, the other question I have is for the regular one, the shield, whatever it is, it's called protection. Do you need? Is it only melee you can block?
Ooh.
Yeah, because this one it's any attack, so it could be an arrow, it could be a ranged spell attack.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is a really good point.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I got the plate right here.
Okay.
Now,
when a creature you can see.
And I have it fancy bookmarked. So.
Right.
Okay. Now here's an interesting. Here's a question. So it says when a creature you can see hits a target other than you. Now it does mention hits. Does that mean like hits with a spell? Like. That was another thing. So where in the book does it talk about spell attacks? Because I had a thing the other day where one of my players was reading through the information in, I think it was what's the Frostbolt, and in Frostbolt all it says is you make a ranged spell attack against a creature within range, and then you do your damage and yada yada. It didn't say a creature you can see within the range, but is it that you have to be able to see a creature to make a ranged spell attack?
If they're behind cover, you could just...
Yeah, because complete cover means that the attacks automatically miss, I thought. Yeah. But it was one of those ones where I was just like, that doesn't work. Like, you can't frostbolt something at range like that, but I don't know why. I just know that it doesn't. All right, let me...
Well, if you can't see them, then, you can't shoot at them.
Well, at the same time, there are spells that you can use that get things that... Say again?
I found it.
Oh, okay.
Under targets in the player's handbook, to target something, this is for spells, you must have a clear path to it, so it can't be behind total cover.
Okay. Yeah, it specifically mentions can't be behind total cover, because I'm like, because there's some situations where, it can go around things, and, but yeah. Okay. So I've found the Paladin class features. Mm-hmm. We're gonna fighting styles, defend, protection. Yeah. When a creature you can see attacks a target other than you that is within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on the attack. Okay, so it does specifically say, so the creature that you're defending has to be within 5 feet of you, but it does just say attacks a target. Yeah.
It's something when I read it this time, it clicked on me that it could be any kind of even range.
which is pretty
range,
cool. Or spell attacks, range or spell attacks, which is nice. Sorry, and then, the things that was going through my head was like, oh, what about magic missile? And then my first thought was just use shield. Just always use shield.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so then after those cool fighting styles, we have the next paladin ability. This is the most potent and most useful for paladins, although, depending on your divine powers. This lets you channel your divine divinity to recover spell slots.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It basically, as a bonus action, you can pray and you regain 1 expended spell slot that can be no higher than half your proficiency bonus.
I've noticed that so much of this book relies on your proficiency bonus, which I find fascinating, because that means that you have to be at least a 3rd level paladin. But you could be a 17th level wizard and a 3rd level paladin, and you can still use your Harness Divine Power, and that'll get you back a 3rd level spell, because half, at level 20, your proficiency bonus is a +6, so half of that is 3. Now, granted, I don't know why you're 17 levels a wizard and 3 levels a paladin, but...
For funsies,
I did make a wizard monk, which I actually am very excited. I don't know. The wizard monk was a lot of fun. Ultimately, it was sort of a pain to manage in the middle of combat when I'm trying to run all of combat and this. Anyway, we're going off topic again, but yeah. So I think that's very fascinating. Kind of like the cantrips thing, where cantrips function off your total level, not your like wizard or anything else level. This also means that this is going to function off your total level as opposed to your sort of paladin level, which I find very fascinating.
I think this fits in with Adventure League because of the tier system. You know, you have 1 through 4 tiers. You will definitely it'll definitely keep things in tier levels. So
that makes a lot of sense. And then let's see, martial versatility. Whenever you reach a level in this class, the grants an ability score
switching
improvement.
Fighting styles.
Okay.
Yeah. Whenever you can get an ability score improvement, you can trade out your fighting style. So that's always great.
Honestly, I like that ruling a lot. Like, because sure, like you start off like being like, I'm gonna swing 2 swords, but then like throughout the campaign you get this super cool heavy weapon. Like you're like, no, I want to use this thing. This thing rocks.
Right.
And then you work and you train really well, and then you can switch your fighting styles so that you can actually use that weapon really well.
Yeah, which I really like.
To a melee fighter because you realize I can do a lot more attacks with dual weapons.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a big fan of dual weapons.
Or even adding a new thing from Tasha's. Like, what if your character becomes blinded? Well, you need some blind fighting.
Yeah,
that's fun. I like that.
Then we get into the fun new oaths.
Which Oath of Glory is, I think, a very fun one. I currently, in my adult campaign, have a Kobold Paladin with the Oath of Glory, which is fun because essentially it means that every once in a while you can Hulk out and just be like super awesome. And this was from the Theros, or the what is it? Mythic Odyssey of Theros, which honestly I'm really a big fan of that book. The style of play with the like Greek gods and all that things getting involved is a lot of fun. But again, if you don't want a full campaign setting for a single subclass, bam, right here in this book, which is awesome.
And like this is all like based off of Greek like athletes and stuff. So, and heroes.
Well, and like the picture for this one is great too because it's got a tiefling that just has like the what was it, Hercules? The Hercules sort of lying over the shoulder, which I love. And of course the classic tiefling paladin. I feel like that's one that gets used a lot because it's like I'm gonna go against the thing. It'll be a lot of fun.
Real quick, I'll share that image since we are.
Yeah, let me. Turn off the logos. Oh, and I gotta make sure that when you you're gonna go to go ahead and I have to share screen.
Yeah,
I was like, go ahead and share screen. You can't do that.
Right, turn it on.
All right, go ahead and share screen.
So yeah, that's the one we're talking about. Also notice that he's purple, so they really going with you can just do what you want.
Right, exactly.
The character is yours to decide. You're up here.
I've angered the machine spirit.
All right, so I will stop sharing so it doesn't go crazy.
Oh no! I've angered the machine spirit so much.
From Frost Maiden, Rhyme the Frost Maiden on his shoulder.
Tied everything together.
Little Easter egg there. Or a tie-in. What happened?
It showed our.
No, we're back.
We're gonna have to get rid of this meeting after this one. It showed the code there for a sec. That's fun.
We'll do it.
Well, here, let's go ahead and do this. I'm gonna go ahead and just change this real fast. Advanced sharing options.
All right, so
enable the waiting room.
Just for security purposes, so we don't have crazy things
happen. No one else can join. Perfect. And we'll just burn this one and start a new one later. Awesome. Anyway, so note to self. Right. See, and I even have it on the... Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, we got this fun Athens-style thing, which, and
gladiator
I love,
sort of deal.
Yeah. Spell for this one gets Guiding Bolt, which is massive. Guiding Bolt is awesome. Heroism, which makes a lot of sense. Magic Weapon, Enhance Ability, all the spells that make so much sense for that sort of glory style. And then Oath of Watchers is new to this book, yes?
Yeah, that's a new one. I like this one a lot. You get to be the they're protecting the world from extraplanar threats.
Oh,
so
fun.
That's so it's a different. It's kind of entering into ranger territory, but it makes sense. Having the oath to protect the world from things from outside our realm. But yeah, it's they get some pretty cool spells. They're all fitting. They're alarm, detect magic, moonbeam, which reveals shapeshifters.
Oh yeah.
See and does damage. See invisibility, great.
Counterspell.
All just yeah. And they get a bunch of stuff to help them with watching over people and noticing people who are different, trying to pass. They're pretty, enemies are probably like mind players and other weird
Cthulhu, beholders.
Yeah,
I like it.
Fun stuff.
Anyone that's a warlock.
Yeah, I think that one I find interesting.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to playing around with that with some NPCs.
Mm-hmm.
That's very thematic.
All right, that is Paladins.
Ooh, now we're getting to. So I would say that it's not controversial to say that Ranger is one of those classes that has. It's always been an interesting class.
Ranger gets memed on hardcore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think that they're making it a lot better.
Yeah. And I think what a lot of it comes from those of us who played in 3rd edition. Favorite enemy was just you got extra damage. You just did extra damage, and the same is true into Pathfinder. I don't what was in 4th edition, Alex? What was did the Ranger's favorite enemy do extra damage, or was it more sort of a tracking thing like this one has?
It's been a while. Especially because I was much younger, but I don't actually remember, but I do know that they had the whole at-will versus encounter-based versus, daily powers. I don't quite remember. It's definitely not quite, as in-depth as, other editions. They were just kind of yeah, you can get a favorite enemy. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the other things that's different for this Ranger is the fact that you're actually trading out your abilities rather than just getting additional. So there are additional things, but these are ones that replace the ones in the player's handbook. Because it's kind of been noted that they're underpowered compared to other. Not even just underpowered. They have abilities that aren't too terribly useful. They're
situational.
They're incredibly situational, mixed with they don't scale well as you get higher in classes. You don't need the guy who can find you food when you're summoning food at a snap of your finger. So yeah, a lot of the abilities go away, and you don't really need to even ever look at them again.
Right.
But, so first off,
and especially also because Outlander does something very similar. Sorry, in that the whole gathering food thing, you just have to be an Outlander, and you can essentially get the function of that. But Outlander works anywhere, whereas. Yeah, and there's a lot of other things, but also Rangers don't generally travel alone. So anyway, sorry, I gotta.
No, I totally get you. I think that's one of the things they were looking at was with creating out proficiencies and weapon proficiencies from races, because you would get a lot of redundancies. A lot of a fighter dwarf just gets, I don't get to use that whole ability. But let's go ahead and look at the first big change that replaces the natural explorer feature, and that was one. Getting food and traveling through outdoors. You get Deft Explorer, which gives you a ranked different powers. So you now get at 1st, 2nd, 6th, and 10th level different things. So the first one gives you additional skill, gives you expertise in a skill proficiency you have, which is great.
Yeah. Expertise is massive.
And you also get to read and write 2 additional languages, which will basically be taking the place of losing that from favorite enemy later.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense if you live in the land, you're better at sort of being able to speak to the people in the land. So that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah. That should be, I would imagine that's kind of why you consult a ranger / Sherpa /
exactly, because they know the language.
Yeah. And they'll be able to get through. Roving, you get to increase your walking speed by 5. That's at 6th level. And you gain a climbing speed and a swimming speed equal to your walking speed.
Which is so cool.
That is massive. Because swimming speed, if I remember correctly, if you have a swimming speed, that means that you don't have to breathe underwater.
I am not 100% certain on that one.
I'm going to...
That seems crazy.
Cracking open the tome.
Oh, so by the way, I did a little bit of some quick research. I don't think that 4th edition Rangers had quite the whole favored enemy deal, but they did have Hunter's Quarry. So then you could, essentially as a bonus action, they call it minor action, you can point at an enemy and be like, "You're my enemy," and then you would just deal extra damage.
Wow. The index for the player's handbook is not great.
Yeah, well, I think swimming speed isn't necessarily something that happens a lot.
Well, it didn't have. I figured there'd at least be swimming referred to in the player's handbook, but it's not in the index.
Climbing, swimming. Oh, here we go. Climbing, swimming, crawling. Adventure. Climbing, swimming, crawling. Swimming, crawling. You ignore the costumes.
It might be, but 20 feet per round. Breathing.
No, it does not.
What's this?
Okay.
Yeah.
And no, because it isn't. Because they actually point out this was a person writing a response in a forum, but they point out that all the races that get a swim speed actually include being able to getting also the ability to breathe air in the water. So
yeah. That's I feel like I read somewhere. I don't remember where. That's the problem. I don't remember where it was, but I feel like I read somewhere that if you have a swim speed, that means you can then also, you also don't need to breathe.
But logistically, like, let's say you are a trained athlete like Michael Phelps. He can't swim, or he has a swimming speed that's outrageous, but he can't breathe underwater because he's still a human.
Well, arguably he doesn't have a swim speed. He's just really good at athletics, and then because of that, he can go really fast. We'll have to do some research. We'll get back to on that one.
I would also point out that there are reptiles that are aquatic in the books that have a hold breath instead of breathing.
Okay.
So that would be I was just thinking about it. So like crocodiles and alligators and all that.
I believe it's pronounced crocodile.
Yeah, well, crocodilian.
You're in crocodilish.
I should have said Gariel.
All right. So this guy has a swim speed. Interesting. So the one that's the best example is the constrictor snake. It has a swim speed but does not have an amphibious. So maybe it doesn't give you.
Yeah, because they have a swim speed because they can get about underwater.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and say that it doesn't give you the ability to breathe underwater, but breathing underwater isn't something that isn't necessarily difficult. Plus, so say you're a good old-fashioned wood elf ranger, because why not? You've now got a swim speed of 40.
I know.
That's massive. And a climb speed of 40? Come on, forget about it.
Yeah.
No one's catching you.
Underrated.
No one is escaping your sprinting because you are just insane.
Yeah, especially because
that castle, it's 4 stories tall. I'm going to climb up the parapet in 1 turn.
Well, that's the thing. Most people are moving at half speed when they're climbing. Is the normal thing. So say if you double move and you don't have to roll for it, you're still only going 30 feet. If you're a normal creature, if you have a moose, even if you're a dwarf, you've got a starting speed of 30. You then 25. You then add that 5. You're up to 30. You have a climb speed of 30. That person double moved, and you've just followed them with a single move. Like that, thematically, I think is very, very fun. Or like something tries to dive into the water to try and get away. You're just like, no.
I am after it.
So I like the way that does that. And then Tireless at the end here. As an action, you can give yourself a number of temporary hit points. That's awesome. Equal to D8 plus your Wisdom modifier. Now this is interesting because this is not your Proficiency modifier, as so many other things have been so far.
You can use this action a number of times equal to your Proficiency bonus.
There it is. I just hadn't read far enough. Expended uses after a long
and then
rest.
whenever you finish a long or short rest, you lose a level of exhaustion.
Ooh, that's massive. I think this is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong. I listened to a animated spellbook recently, and they were talking about that there is no class abilities that reduce exhaustion. So this will be the first class ability that, sure, you do have to take a short rest, but still, that's massive. Because 6 levels of exhaustion, you're just dead. Just no saves, no nothing, you're dead.
Yeah.
So to be able to reduce that is pretty huge, which is awesome. Yeah. Favorite foe. So now we're going back to continuing replacing things. So favorite enemy is replaced with favorite foe. Favorite enemy in this edition I find very, very interesting because, again, it's very specific. You have to pick a creature type. If you pick a humanoid, you have to pick 2 of the different types of humanoids. So this is very much that session 0 sort of thing where you want to talk to your DM about, like, hey, where do we think we're going to be going? What are we going to be fighting here? But even then, if you're like, I picked undead because that's a pretty safe bet, and you end up like with some town guards, you're like, well, this thing isn't as useful. And honestly, undead as your favorite enemy maybe isn't the best thing because the benefits you would normally get from favorite enemies is it advantage on survival and advantage on insight, I want to say?
I think it's tracking.
Tracking.
Is it just
survival,
tracking?
And then I forget what it was.
My hand is weird.
Yeah.
Class
feature. Tracking was one of them. Just being able to track them, yeah.
Alright, spellcast, favorite enemy, natural explorer, favorite enemy. Alright, here we go. You have advantage on wisdom survival checks to track your enemy as well as on intelligence check to recall information about them. Okay, so you can know things about them as an option.
For undead, that might be more useful because there's a lot of weird undead with
that is true. That is true.
Like, you know, if they were resistant to like poison, I was undead, but resistant to some kind of attack. Like,
so yeah,
this one is vulnerable.
That favorite enemy, you have to pick one of a couple of different creature types. You have advantage on survival checks for tracking, and you have advantage on recalling information. And that's it. Yep. Oh, you get an extra language, but that was I sort of covered in the thing. So let's talk about favorite foe.
So one of the things, so this one's obviously very different. It's closer to like Hunter's Mark.
Yeah.
Spell. But I actually was reading through, there was some discussion online. It's not sage advice yet because that hasn't come out for this book yet, but it was a lot of people talking about this because this wording. When you hit a creature with an attack roll, you can call on your mystical bond with nature to mark the target as your favorite enemy for 1 minute or until you lose your concentration, as if you were concentrating on a spell.
Yes.
So that's the weird, like, as if you were. Does that take the place of a concentration spell?
Which would not be great.
Yeah, which I've seen that's what the interpretation is. And
Oh.
that's not great. Yeah, because there's a lot of concentration spells for rangers.
Well, I mean, because isn't Hunter's Mark a concentration spell?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hunter's Mark. I was looking at, because I have several rangers throughout different groups, so I actually looking
at first
spells.
blush, it's an attractive-looking class. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and but yeah, almost all their spells are concentration, which bark skin. Not that that's more of a druid, but rangers get it. What's the spike growth?
Oh, spike growth. Yeah, that one's massive.
But yeah, you couldn't mark a foe while you have spark growth.
Interesting.
Interesting. There's a lot of those things. But so the actual effect of it is whenever you hit the favorite enemy and do damage to it, you increase the damage by 1d4, but that increases as you go up in levels.
Yep.
It's not that high, though.
Yeah.
But anyways, you can use this feature to mark a favorite enemy a number of times with your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest.
Oh, it's not even a short rest ability. Okay.
Oh, it's a long rest. And and it increases at 6th level and 14th to 1d6 and 1d8,
Wow.
which is not super...
But, so, if I'm going for just a straight damage build for a ranger, I get to pick a fighting... Did it add any extra fighting styles? Oh, they did!
Blood
Okay.
fighting, druidic warrior, and thrown weapon.
Ooh, I like that they add... Oh, they also has spellcast... Oh, no, spellcasting focus is a different thing. So I'm going ranger. If I want to try and push as much damage as I possibly can, I'm going to probably do archery because a lot of these things the first time per turn. So I've got my bow. I've got my plus to hit. I've got this. So let's go ahead and say, for argument's sake, that you can concentrate on a spell and this ability because it functions like concentration, as if you were concentrating a spell, but it's not a spell.
Yeah.
Just for argument's sake. So I'm a we're gonna go ahead and say that we're at least 3rd level, so we can pick our subclass. So I'm going with the one, I always forget what it's called. It's not the Giant Slayer. There's one of them that once they've done damage, they get to do an extra D8. Oh, here we go. Colossus Slayer.
It's Hunter, but it's Slayer.
You wear down enemy's foes. You hit a creature. Your tenacity. You can wear down the most potent foes. When you hit a creature with an attack, the creature takes an additional D8 of. If it's below its maximum hit points, you can deal extra damage only once per turn. So again, a lot of things that only damage once per turn. So I'm an archer. I've got my bow. I am a Colossus Slayer Hunter at 3rd level. I have my Hunter's Mark. So if I hit them with my first arrow, I'm going to do Hunter's Mark as a bonus action. My first arrow is going to be a D8 plus a D6. My second arrow, though, is going to do 2D8 plus a D6 plus a D4. Now, say that I am a rogue. I'm attacking with a single attack. I've got my one. Let's go ahead and say a D6. Let's give them the same bow. They've got a D8 for their damage plus 2D6 for their sneak attack damage. I think the advantage to the ranger in this particular situation is that he would be able to do this regardless of enemies in combat. Sure, it does take that first turn where he's only going to do the Hunter's Mark plus the bow, but then the next turn he's doing an additional D8 and D4, which isn't bad.
Build too.
Yeah, I'm trying to see can you make a ranger deal more damage than a rogue, which I think ultimately they're about on par, and then the question becomes, what do you want the extra stuff that you get from being a ranger? So, because the ranger is going to get 2 attacks at 6th level, which will be an extra D8, which is nice. Sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I was saying, comparing it to Hunter's Mark, Hunter's Mark has an unappreciated secondary effect, which is the fact that you can move it from character to character when you kill the first one.
Yeah. So essentially, most combat, you're only going to need to cast a single Hunter's Mark, because it'll last for a minute, and most combats don't last more than 10 rounds.
And actually, it lasts for an hour.
What? Oh, because it has the tracking ability. I forgot that, if they get away, then you can do the tracking thing. That's one of the things that makes Hunter's Mark really good, especially when you're going after that bill and you're like, haha, you thought you could get away from me. They try and run away after they're wounded, and you're gonna take them out. Yeah.
So, I mean, granted, you can still take Hunter's Mark, so it's not like it's gone.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Micah, who's commenting all over our Facebook page. Thank you so much, Micah. And so he's playing a Gloomstalker Ranger, which that one's pretty cool because you can just chase people and just be like, "I'm after you." Mm-hmm. So, yep, huge shout out. Thank you so much for commenting. We really appreciate it. We really like it.
My comments aren't showing.
Well, that's because you gotta look at it.
I can see it.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
It was apparently I had angered the machine spirit again.
He is rocking it. 2 hand crossbows. Oh my gosh, that is. Oh.
A crossbow expert feat is in its own thing.
No, it is. It is very meaty.
He's is playing it like the
Wild West gunslinger.
Wild West.
Yeah.
And oh man, that is so dope. And then we also got another comment from Cameron, who is also playing that style ranger where you're having. You know what? That seems like a pretty common, because I also played with another ranger who had the whole dual crossbow or dual hand crossbow sort of deal. Like that's pretty sweet, where you're just like.
Yeah.
Quick question for if we know just offhand, Hunter's Mark, is that melee and ranged? I think it's mostly just used for ranged, because a lot of times.
No, because it's melee and ranged, because okay. I had a ranger who was dual weapons mainly.
Because I'm thinking about this. So you've got your was the Crowdbreaker one? It's in the Hunter. I really like the Horde Breaker. I really like the Hunter subclass for the thing, because you're just dealing extra damage. So you have your Horde Breaker. Once on each of your turns, when you make a weapon attack, you can make another attack with the same weapon against a different creature within 5 feet of the original target, within range of your weapon. So let's hear out this build. We've got pair of longswords, because you took the feat for pair of longswords, because 2-weapon fighting. Feels good. You've got your 2-weapon fighting style. You've got your 2 things. You run in, you hit one person with your favored foe ability, you hit the other one with a hunter's mark. You then using your horde breaker, and you can basically have 2 people that you're doing almost equal damage to as you're just chopping away at them. Now, how often you end up fighting 2 people at once that are within 5 feet of each other? Who knows? But
if you're fighting armies, then that's like a super awesome ability.
That would be essentially you've turned yourself into 2 people, which is pretty massive.
You're the Cuisinart, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that stat. But yeah, that's definitely a fun thing.
Well, we've theoried it enough. I think ultimately, as a DM, I'm gonna probably run this as not concentration of a spell. Allow my rangers to have a spell and this ability. That's personal. You should run it how you feel is right, and I assume that we'll get more errata.
What it seems to be going towards, because there were some comments from the designers that they were saying that I would prefer it the other way.
Yeah.
But it also introduces now having dual, like, do you roll 2 times for if you're concentrating on a spell for concentration, or once?
Oh yeah, that is.
Or multiple parts of your brain is working at the same time.
That's where the ruling gets weird.
That's true. That's true. It's an odd thing. I don't have any rangers currently, so it's not really something I have to worry about. But I'm not saying that I push people away from rangers, but they're one of those ones.
I have a ranger who forgets he's a ranger. He thinks he's an ice wizard now, and I'm like,
abilities and to the new options.
Yes.
And so, of course, first is spells, and they get a lot of druidic spells,
which is nice. Ooh, aid.
Ones that and a paladin one they're hiding. So they get.
Oh, I didn't know they didn't have entangle. Entangle makes so much sense for a. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking of entangling strike because they have that.
Yeah, I mean, but just entangle in general is pretty massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and they get
elemental weapon. That makes so much sense as 2. Meld into stone. Revivify. Revivify is awesome.
And they get a couple summoning spells: summon beast, summon fey, and summon elemental. So.
Oh wow, they got a whole bunch of them. That is fun. Well, and actually, what I like about this is if you have your favorite foe, you can, instead of using, but again, concentration. Are the summon spells concentration?
I can check right now. When I hover over it,
double check.
Tells me. They are.
Oh, bugger. So, yeah, because
otherwise they'd be a little too strong.
Concentration, as I'm looking at them. Actually, all of them but aid. And, yeah, aid is the only, or aid, meld into stone, and revivify are the only non-concentration spells that they get.
Yeah.
Rangers have a lot of concentration spells.
Yeah,
they have to really focus. They gotta focus on their things
for a character. Yeah. So handful of new spells, and then more fighting styles. This seems to be kind of. You mentioned Druidic Warrior, which is fun. I think more cantrips is great. Especially because they don't normally get a lot of cantrips as it is, so you slap on a couple more, that's pretty big. Plus, then, my personal favorite, you can get Shillelagh, which is great, although why you don't have a good strength or dex, I'm not sure anyway. But also Thorn Whip, which I also am a huge fan of.
Also, you can have some fun with some of Magic Stone. That's always a fun one.
You lost Alex.
I just had to turn off my heater.
Oh yeah, and produce flame. Always, you can summon a fire in your hand and throw it if it gets necessary, but you can see in the dark for those human.
Yeah, which is nice.
Human halfling rangers.
Well, and speaking of which, there's also blind fighting if you're feeling froggy. Thrown weapon fighting, which I like that they added that one in as a specific thing.
Especially for the thematic, so it. And then, of course, the next feature is spellcasting focus. Yay! They were the only spellcasters not to have an arcane or a focus. So they now can use a druidic focus in place of their material opponents.
Pretty
that
sweet.
Was a huge pain in the butt for rangers.
Yeah.
And then lastly, this is the other replacing the feature. I forgot about this one. Primal Awareness, which was not a great one in the
player's handbook. Oh, is Primal Awareness the one that you could tell the number of things within a mile or 6 miles? Which is funny because you're like, how many humans are within 6 miles? I don't know, like 100, 300?
Yeah.
An amount.
727 to be specific.
It would cost you a spell slot too.
To get vague information.
trade that out for new spells you always have ready, and they're all good spells. They're utility spells. So you got third level, you'll gain Speak with Animals.
Oh, and you can cast each of them once without expending a spell slot. Oh,
casting of them.
That is awesome.
And Speak with Plants, Locate Creature, and Commune with Nature. They're all great utility spells. So
yeah, no, this is great. But ones that you wouldn't necessarily want to spend an entire preparation on, like to just have them, and then also to be able to cast them once per day or once per long rest without having to use a spell slot. That is massive, and just thematically makes sense for a ranger. You're like, yeah, I can talk to trees. Can everyone?
And they also get martial versatility, which is the same as we talked about for paladins. Ability score increase. Flip out your fighting style.
Yep.
All that good stuff.
And another replacement, Hide in Plain Sight, which is when I really read that one, it sounds great when you first read it in the player's handbook. You're like, whoa, I can be completely hidden. It takes me a minute to do, but then I'm completely hidden, but you cannot move. It's very specifically written in the original Hide in Plain Sight. It's right here. You can spend 1 minute creating camouflage. Once your camouflage is away, you can try to hide by pressing yourself up against a solid surface, like a tree or wall, that is at least as tall and wide as you are. Very specific.
Very specific.
Plus 10 to stealth. As long as you remain there without moving or taking reactions. Once you move or take an action or reaction, you must camouflage yourself again to gain benefit. Another minute.
The minute thing
rounds of combat.
Yeah. So this is, that's the thing. It's a non-combat ability, much in the same way that the assassin, you need to really be prepared for it. Sorry, the rogue archetype assassin. If you just are like, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to get into fights. No. You need to prepare. As an assassin, you need to make sure they're unaware and make sure that you get the first attack. Otherwise, your ability does relatively little.
No.
But it's massive.
You got to be a minute ahead of them, know where they're going to be, and have access to a minute of preparation. And then you get one chance, and you don't get the cool sneak attack because you're not a rogue unless you're
so it's like, how about I just roll a stealth check and call it good? Or Pass Without a Trace gives you and massive amounts of people within 30 feet of you get that plus 10 for an hour.
And that's a ranger spell.
And that's a ranger spell.
Nature's Veil is what they have in place, and you get to hide yourself briefly. So as a bonus action, you become invisible, along with any equipment you're wearing or carrying until the start of your next turn.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Yeah, my gosh.
So much better. That can have a
and you can use it a number of times equal to proficiency modifier, get it back after a long rest. That is definitely and especially one of those ones where you're like, I've done my attacks, I'm about to get hurt, let's go ahead and hide.
Let's spend a minute hiding, guys.
Go back to that Horde Breaker option where you run in and do your haha attacks, and you're like, I don't want to deal with this right now. Invisibility, move back, get disadvantage on the attacks, but now people that probably don't know where you're at. So that's awesome.
Yeah, you can do a lot of different things with that one, so that's good. Utility is nice.
Yeah.
And lastly, we have the new archetypes for the ranger. First one is Fey Wanderer, and this one I haven't really read yet. I don't know if either of you guys have. I vaguely flipped through it, but I have not really read this one.
I'll be honest, I have not.
It's a little bit. It's kind of interesting because it's like the Feywild has literally changed you a little bit. So the picture that they have shows a human Fey Wanderer with horns. But there's also other things where you can do psychic damage when you hit a creature with a weapon attack. And there's also, you get some other spells as well. And it's more of the Feywild, Charmy. You also get you get Charm Person, Misty Step, Dimension Door, all the trickery, Feywild stuff.
Okay.
And then otherwise, that's basically what I got. You just also you can also use your charisma stat instead of wisdom for some other things as well.
That's fun.
You can literally be that charming ranger prince from the fairy land of Feywild.
So essentially you're the changeling. You're the person that was stolen and then raised in the Feywild. And you sort of there's a whole chart of 6 different things that
or you can play Peter Pan.
Oh yeah, Peter Pan would be great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Peter Pan absolutely would be a Feywild ranger. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the next one is the Swarm Keeper, which again I feel bad. Black Friday has been absolute madness on a stick, so I haven't had a chance to really dive into most of these. But This seems like fun.
Yeah, this one's very unique. You get to control a swarm of small animals, mainly flying.
I see that playful pixies is an option, which I sort of love. Have you guys seen Labyrinth?
Yes.
the Hoggle, when you first meet him, is spritzing fairies with pesticide, or yeah. And when Sarah picks one of them up, it bites her in the hand. It just reminds me of that.
Yeah. But yeah, you can. Yeah, they have examples: swarming insects, miniature twig blights, fluttering birds, playful pixies. Yeah. So you could, and in the little side text here, it actually says like your spells should take the form of your
of the bug.
Swarm. So when you cast Gaseous Form, you might turn into your swarm of insects rather than just being. So I like how they're doing that. They get more into that in the spell section about how you should customize your spells to your character. But yeah, they give the example of Arcane Eye being an extension of your swarm that can spy for you, that kind of thing. I just, it's fun. Yeah.
Okay. So the main ability of the Gathered Swarm is once in each of your turns, you can cause the swarm to assist you in one of the following ways immediately after you hit a target with an attack. So, very fun stuff. Just deal an extra d6 of damage. It is piercing, which is fun. Or the other option is the attack. Let's see. The attack's target must succeed on a strength saving throw against your spell save DC or be moved by the swarm up to 15 feet horizontally in any direction of your choice. Okay. Vertically would have been awesome and would have been an extra d6 of falling damage, which would have been hilarious. Or you are moved by the swarm 5 feet horizontally in a direction of your choice.
So I like how the picture that they chose for the book is a gnome swarm keeper. So I'm just imagining with that, like the gnome. So the gnome hits a creature, and then all of a sudden, all the bugs surrounding the gnome lift him up or hit them up, and then moves them and plops them down.
Yeah. Now, a very important detail: it does not say that this does not provoke opportunity attacks. Yeah. So if you're moving out of combat, you're gonna get whacked. But I mean, still, as far as like,
if you have the swarm picking you up, like say you're that two weapon fighter or 2-weapon ranger.
Oh, that could put you within 5 feet.
And then then the swarm picks you up, moves you 5 feet away, and then plops you down.
Oh, the Hordebreaker doesn't work because that's its own archetype.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, no,
I mean, you can still just be like a 2-weapon fighter, swinging, slashing, doing your thing.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Gotcha.
So that's, I don't know. And you can also go really crazy with it because, like, it'd be kind of fun to play like a larger, like, I don't know, a Minotaur or a Goliath. The things could be like, I have a nest of owls in my beard.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah.
I've always been a huge fan of minions, so stuff like this makes me very, very happy. And actually, it reminds me a little bit of the Druid of Spores. Has kind of a similar feel to it, as far as like you have this sort of colony that assists you with your thing. So that's a lot of fun. Speaking of colony and helping and stuff, Beastmaster got some companion changes. Yes, it looks like.
Yeah.
So this is out of Unknown Arcana. This is put out there. They fixed
Unearthed
it
Arcana?
a little bit. Unearthed Arcana. That's the preview. Playtest.
That's the playtest. Yeah.
Yeah. So in it, because I was very interested because some of the ranger stuff, especially Beastmasters, were really.
Because Beastmaster, you had to give up your whole action for your for what? Oh, you had to give up one of your attacks to get your pet to attack. Yeah.
And in this one, they went with as they've done with all the summoning spells in this book. It's a blanket stat for like air and earth/water.
Oh yeah, it's a beast of land, beast of sea, beast of sky. Oh, and you can basically customize your beast. Oh, that's super cool.
So, but it also gets to act during your turn. It can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it can take is the dog's action, unless you take a bonus action in your turn to command it to take another action. So it can attack as a.
I feel like that's very. Oh, my mouse is wandering around. I feel that's very similar in many ways to what was it? The Artificer and their steel defender, the Battlecaster. Which one was it? It's a battle something or other. Yeah. Because their steel defender, it was a bonus action to let it attack, And it got other fun sort of stuff you get to add on
but
top.
This also, the other thing that the ranger can also sacrifice one of their attacks to have it attack again.
Oh, so you can get 2 attacks if you sacrifice your own attack.
Times. You can really set your like saber-toothed cat loose on somebody.
Oh, that actually is really massive.
Yeah.
I like
or
it.
your hawk can just.
Oh yeah, and yeah, it does look like it has a
and
scaling
really
benefit. Which I think this makes a lot more sense than that chart, because the chart you then have to take a sort of template and then you're adding more stuff on top of it, and there's one like creature that is much more like, you're like, oh, this one is just better because it has a better stat block. Whereas this is like, no, I have a beast of land. This is my I don't know. It's get weird. Actually, it's a half. It's like a Minotaur ape. So big upper body, small legs, horns. You've got this thing that it's doing. Oh, this is awesome. D8 plus 2 plus your proficiency bonus to slashing damage.
Well, one of the other things I want to point out in the basic rules of it is that if the beast died within the last hour, you can use your action to touch it and expend a spell slot of 1st or higher. It returns to life after 1 minute with with all its hit points restored.
Oh, okay. So it's not a mid-combat thing, but it's definitely like you can have it back.
And you can summon a different one. You can change it out. When you finish the long rest, you can summon a different primary beast. The new beast appears in unoccupied space in 5 feet. Basically, you can change its form.
That's so cool.
It's more of a spirit creature.
Yeah.
It gives you more options, and
Although I am seeing here that it looks like you need to make sure that you have a good spell attack bonus, because it does use your spell attack modifier for its to hit. So if you're a ranger that's gone hard into I'm going to do like melee or ranged attacks, and spells are sort of an aside, probably don't go this route, because that means that your mob will also be a little weaker on the attacks.
I just see proficiency bonus to hit.
So under like the Beast of the Land, a melee weapon attack, your spell attack modifier to hit.
Okay, I was just looking at the damage.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, the damage is just your proficiency bonus, which they shorthand to PB.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can either do peanut butter or proficiency bonus.
Yeah.
Oh, and interesting. So the Primal Bond is actually pretty nice. You add your proficiency bonus to all ability checks and saving throws. Wow. That's awesome.
Right? So sweet.
So that's fun. I think we're moving on. We're clipping right along.
Most of the stream has definitely been talking about the Ranger. So
I had the biggest changes. Yeah.
It's definitely got the biggest,
I feel like
probably the best.
Yeah, Ranger is definitely one of those ones that like they've lived in hot contention sort of for a while. So I think to get all these sort of boons is great for them.
And I actually do have to get going pretty soon, so maybe if you want to talk
we
about
spent too much time on the Rogue. Not on the Rogue,
no,
but the
Ranger. Yeah, we spent so much time on the Ranger.
Has it already been an hour? My goodness.
Right, exactly. Time flies when you're having fun.
Well, let's at least dive through the Rogue. Dang it! And there's the Warlock and the Wizard and the Sorcerer. There's so many good things. I think next week we're probably not going to be able to continue looking at this, just because we've spent a lot of time just diving into this book. But I think that really in many ways speaks to the book itself. Like there's just so much in here. And we haven't even got to the DM stuff.
I think one of the things is it's hard. You have to digest it. Like you're like, how does that work in terms of the rules? And
exactly.
Yeah.
It's such a crazy book.
Yeah, the DM stuff is really good. We may want to look at. We can pull that into another discussion at some point.
I think we should definitely take because I haven't had a chance really to dive into it yet, but I'd love. We're gonna go ahead and shift gears a little bit. So I've dove back into the DM section, the one that excites me the most, and the one that I really am looking forward to using, because I'm a huge fan of your random charts. Is there are environmental hazards. And these are wackadoo, and I love that, because I love it when they the characters end up in sort of strange otherworldly places, things that have just strange effects. So you've got you got blessed radiance effects, you've got far realm effects, and I need someone to throw a number between 1 and 100 at me so we can dive into one of these just real fast. Do we actually have dice?
Yeah, 6.
6. Wow, that's a low number. All right.
I just rolled a d20. Here, if you want, I can go ahead and do the whole.
Wait.
2d10s.
Oh, that's fine. So a structure in the region. So this is for the far realm effects. Whispers faintly. Why is the structure whispering? Any creature within 60 feet of the structure that can hear it must succeed on a DC 12 Wisdom saving throw or become charmed. While charmed in this way, the creature must move towards the source of the whispering. This is delightfully weird. Avoiding obvious hazards when the creature... when it reaches the source, it is incapacitated. The creature can repeat the saving throw as it takes damage at the end of every... Or at the... No, sorry. Take damage at the end of every hour, ending the effect on itself on a success. So this to me is such a delightful sort of jumping off point, because I've sent my players into a weird, wacky place, and I've rolled on my chart, and I've now got this structure in the region whispers faintly. What? So like,
right?
and that is like a jumping off point is massive. Like, why is the structure whispering? And I think it's also too because. In the same way, like the random encounter charts are so much fun, it adds that sort of life to the world. So, like, you know, you've got your party members are moving through a forest, and you know you want to make the forest feel alive, so you roll in that chart. And not always is it going to be like they're attacked by a monster. Sometimes it's just there's an old couple traveling through the forest, or you see there's all kinds of like interesting weird stuff you can do, and this can be such a delightful sort of jumping off point where you're like, okay, this structure is now whispering, and why is it whispering? I don't know, let's figure it out. And for that one, I love letting people speculate on like, oh, why would it be whispering, what magics are here, and then of course we just take that and run with it. So I'm very much looking forward to, because they've got haunted effects, which who doesn't love haunted effects? Infested,
resonance,
infested
unraveling
effects?
magic.
Yeah, mirror zone. That's awesome. Psychic. There's so many fun sort of things where you're like, I want to make this place feel supernatural and otherworldly. They've got charts and ideas for that, which just makes me very happy.
They also have a whole magic mushrooms section. You know.
Yeah, like actually magic mushrooms.
Yeah, like actually magical mushrooms.
Yeah. So yeah, no, this book is massive. Which I would love to continue talking about it ad
Very
nauseam.
intensive.
To remind the lovely people, we do have copies of this again in the store. They are in fact 20% off through the end of today. And yeah, no, I'm thoroughly enjoying this book.
It's a great book. If you haven't already picked it up, we're definitely a place that you can pick it up. Please pick it up. It's an insanely awesome book.
Oh yeah, there's a lot in there. Do we want to do a third day of Tasha, or do we want to jump back into character creation? What are we feeling?
We'll go ahead.
I think, yeah.
We'll discuss off camera.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay.
No,
then I will make a Facebook post when we figure out what we're doing. But I suppose until then, everybody have yourself a safe time out there. Have fun. We will see you again on Monday. Also, we are starting to put these up onto YouTube. The YouTube channel is Zulu's Games. It's sometimes kind of hard to find. I've been posting a couple links to some of the videos on Facebook. So I'll try to help disseminate that information. As always, feel free to hop onto the Discord where we can discuss your different ideas for what you like about it. We're gonna go ahead and in here. Oh,
man! Darn it!
You gotta do the exclamation mark Discord.
Oh, exclamation mark Discord. Oh, all right. Well, cool.
So there's the Twitch one. Yeah. Join the community. Hopefully this week I will be able to do our community stream where I talk a little bit about the different options that you have for joining into the community and becoming a part of it. But until then, stay safe, and we will see you next week or Friday for the Zulu Shopping Network. Cool.
Right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
You.